the diagnostic agreement. Both Nietzsche and Buddha begin with a shared recognition. Human beings suffer unnecessarily. This suffering does not stem from external circumstances alone, but from internal misunderstandings. Both identify a fundamental crisis in how humans relate to existence. Both see conventional religious and moral frameworks as inadequate or actively harmful. The Buddha's diagnosis emerged from his biographical encounter with aging, sickness, and death. Prince Siddhartha lived in luxury until confronting human mortality at age 29. This shock prompted his renunciation and 6 years of ascetic practice. His enlightenment under the Bodhi tree revealed the Four Noble Truths. First, life is characterized by dukkha, often translated as suffering, but more accurately meaning unsatisfactoriness. Second, this suffering arises from tanha, craving or thirst. Third, suffering can cease through the elimination of craving. Fourth, the Eightfold Path provides the method for this cessation. The Buddha's analysis identifies craving as the root mechanism generating suffering. Humans crave sensory pleasures, continued existence, and non-existence. This craving operates through a 12-link chain of dependent origination. Ignorance conditions mental formations, which condition consciousness, which conditions name and form. This process continues through 6 sense bases: contact, feeling, craving, clinging, becoming, birth, and finally aging and death. Each link arises dependent on the previous link. The doctrine of anatta, no permanent self, stands as Buddhism's most distinctive and challenging claim. The Buddha taught that what we call the self is merely a convenient designation. No permanent, unchanging essence exists within the 5 aggregates. The feeling of being a continuous self is an illusion generated by rapidly changing mental and physical processes. This illusion causes us to cling desperately to what cannot be held. Modern neuroscience has confirmed aspects of this Buddhist insight about selfhood. The brain constructs the sense of a unified self from distributed neural processes. Neurologist Antonio Damasio's research shows the self emerges from basic homeostatic regulations and body mapping. Split brain studies demonstrate that consciousness can be divided, challenging the unity of self. Research on memory shows it is reconstructive rather than reproductive, undermining the continuity of personal identity. The Buddha emphasized that this analysis is not nihilistic or pessimistic. Understanding dependent origination and no self does not mean nothing exists. It means phenomena exist only in dependence on causes and conditions. This recognition liberates rather than depresses because it shows suffering is not inherent or inevitable. Nirvana is not annihilation, but the cessation of the processes that generate suffering. Nietzsche's diagnosis emerged from a different historical and philosophical context. He witnessed what he called the death of God in 19th century Europe. Traditional Christian morality no longer commanded genuine belief among educated Europeans. This created what Nietzsche termed a nihilist crisis of unprecedented magnitude. Without God, traditional values lacked foundation and meaning seemed impossible. Nietzsche identified 3 ways nihilism manifests as a psychological state. First, people seek a purpose or telos in existence that simply does not exist. Christianity had provided this through salvation and eternal life. Its collapse left existence appearing pointless. Second, people project a unity or wholeness onto the world that it lacks. They want the cosmos to be rational, orderly, and ultimately benevolent. Third, people believe in a true world beyond this apparent world. This true world would have been eternal, unchanging, and morally perfect. The death of God forced recognition that no transcendent meaning exists. No divine plan guides history toward a glorious conclusion. No cosmic justice ensures that virtue is rewarded and vice punished. No eternal soul survives death to receive ultimate vindication. These comforting illusions had sustained human beings for millennia. Their collapse threatened to plunge European civilization into despair and destructive nihilism. Nietzsche saw two possible responses to this crisis: passive nihilism or active nihilism. Passive nihilism involves resignation, exhaustion, and the will to nothingness. It seeks escape from existence through distraction, intoxication, or annihilation. Active nihilism involves the creative destruction of old values and the affirmation of life. It embraces the void and uses it as an opportunity for radical freedom. Crucially, Nietzsche interpreted Buddhism as an instance of passive nihilism. He viewed nirvana as a will to nothingness, a sophisticated form of world denial. Compassion, from his perspective, merely spreads suffering by making us assume others' pain. Buddhist practice aimed at eliminating desire, which Nietzsche saw as life negation. The entire system appeared designed to escape existence rather than affirm it. This interpretation, scholars have demonstrated, fundamentally misread Buddhist philosophy. Nietzsche inherited Schopenhauer's conflation of Buddhist and Hindu concepts. Schopenhauer had projected his own pessimism onto Eastern thought. He read Buddhist texts through the lens of his will as chaotic, aimless striving. The Buddha explicitly rejected nihilism in numerous suttas. When asked if nothing exists after death, he refused to answer, calling it an improper question. Nirvana is not nothingness, but the unconditioned, beyond both existence and non-existence as conventionally understood. The cessation of craving does not mean the elimination of all desire, only harmful forms rooted in ignorance. Nevertheless, Nietzsche's misreading reveals a genuine philosophical disagreement beneath the misunderstanding. Even correctly understood, Buddhism seeks to extinguish certain fundamental drives that Nietzsche considered essential to life. The Buddha taught that craving must be eliminated for liberation. Nietzsche insisted that drives, including aggressive and acquisitive ones, constitute life itself. Both thinkers diagnosed a sickness in how humans ordinarily relate to existence. Both viewed conventional morality and religion as symptoms rather than cures. Both emphasized direct experiential understanding over abstract theoretical knowledge. Both developed practices aimed at transforming consciousness and alleviating suffering. The Buddha prescribed meditation, ethical conduct, and wisdom cultivation as the path to liberation. Samatha meditation develops concentration and mental stability. Vipassana meditation cultivates insight into impermanence, suffering, and no self. Ethical precepts restrain harmful actions that disturb the mind. Together, these practices gradually weaken the bonds of craving and ignorance. Nietzsche prescribed what we might call existential self-overcoming. One must acknowledge the death of God and the resulting void without flinching. One must then create one's own values through an act of will. This requires embracing the eternal recurrence. Would you will the exact return of your life forever? Only those who could answer yes have truly overcome nihilism and affirmed existence. The concept of will to power stands at the center of Nietzsche's positive philosophy. This remains one of his most misunderstood and contested ideas. Will to power is not simply the desire to dominate others, though it includes that possibility. More fundamentally, it describes a drive to overcome resistance, to grow, and to expand one's capacities. Nietzsche sometimes presented will to power as a cosmological principle underlying all reality. In his unpublished notebooks, he speculated that the world itself consists of will to power and nothing else. Most scholars now interpret this more modestly as a psychological principle describing human motivation. People naturally seek to increase their power, understood as the capacity for action and self-determination. Alfred Adler, founder of individual psychology, explicitly borrowed from Nietzsche's will to power concept. Adler argued that humans have an innate drive towards superiority and overcoming feelings of inferiority. Contemporary psychology recognizes related phenomena in concepts like self-efficacy and achievement motivation. The drive to master challenges and develop competencies appears fundamental to human psychology. The Buddha would have recognized this drive, but interpreted it very differently. From a Buddhist perspective, will to power represents a refined form of craving for becoming. It seeks to establish and expand the sense of self through accomplishments and dominance. This inevitably generates suffering because all constructed identities are impermanent and ultimately unsatisfying. Nietzsche countered that this Buddhist solution involves a will to power turned against itself. The ascetic seeks power over himself, power to overcome his own nature and desires. Even the ideal of egolessness requires tremendous will and self-discipline. Paradoxically, the Buddhist path demands the very drives it claims to eliminate. Both diagnose suffering as stemming from a mismatch between human psychology and reality. For Buddha, we suffer because we crave permanence in an impermanent world. We seek stable identity in a process of constant change. We pursue pleasures that inevitably turn to pain. For Nietzsche, we suffer because we demand that existence have meaning it does not possess. We want cosmic justice when the universe operates without moral purpose. We seek eternal truths when everything is interpretation and perspective. We cling to comforting lies when honesty demands we face harsh realities.